What's up, folks? Zen here. It is March 29th, a beautiful, sunny Southern California Monday day. This was going to be a continuation of my last video that I shot, which is Urban Bee Bag, where I discovered bees had colonized this empty urban worm bag that has a hole in the top chewed into it by a rat. This was sitting on my porch, so I was going to use it as a secondary bag, but the bees have colonized it, so I ended up moving it out here, where my initial bee colony, which had colonized this lid, I had moved it out into my yard, but unfortunately I didn't choose a spot that got much shade, so they abandoned it once I had moved it. So let's try this again with my urban bee bag. Hopefully they'll colonize this thing, and I'll have myself another bee colony. But I figured I might as well shoot my spring update for my channel. So let's go through this in rapid order. Here is my grapefruit tree. It's got a lot more blossoms than it did last year. Hopefully we'll get more fruit than we did this past year as well. Here's my rejuvenated Mandarin orange tree, which also was not bearing fruit. I basically tried to kill this tree by not watering it and letting all the leaves drop down, but then it just regrew a bunch of leaves during the late winter, early spring rains, and then it actually formed blossoms. So there's about 10 oranges forming on it right now. We'll see which holds towards summer. There's one of the suckers there. But there's about 10. I'm not going to try to find them all again. So I'm going to keep this tree another year. I've already prepared another planting site. I'll probably put in a Owari Satsuma tangerine tree here. Here's my blueberry bush. I allowed it to flower. It's forming blueberries. There's a blueberry. There's a couple blueberries forming on it. I figured I'd let it grow some fruit. Man, I don't know if this is focusing that well. Here's my random vegetable patch, which isn't doing too well. Got an heirloom tomato plant growing. Got a couple pepper plants growing in there. Got some tree collards growing in here. Eventually this is going to be the site of my dinosaur kale. I'm growing dinosaur kale seedlings right now. I threw a couple seeds in the ground just to see if any could survive. Just growing naturally out of the ground. So, but you can see how different they are. I threw these down the same time as I potted some seedlings, or grew some seeds in pots. These are small, stunted, purple. They have nutrient deficiencies. They aren't faring too well naturally. Here is the pomegranate tree, which has more blooms than it did last year. Last year we got about 8 pomegranates off of this tree. The year previously there were about 30. Looks like we're going to have about 30 again this year, which is good. This used to be the place of my passion fruit vine. Something just chewed right through it, killed it, snapped it. I was hoping that the root system would produce another vine, but I'm going to have to put another passion fruit vine in that spot. But here we go, folks. My pride and joy, fruit punch mango tree in a raised mound. These things are difficult to grow in Southern California because of the soil pH conditions. So I've mounded it, got some good, well-draining soil surrounding it, and of course mulched with wood chips and pink lily dried up flower mulch. So there's my beautiful fruit punch that I picked up as an ailing sapling. And restored it to health in a pot for about a year before deciding to plant it out this spring, and look at the new growth. No shock. No transplant shock like my avocado did. Speaking of my avocado, it's taken it an entire year to recover from the original transplant into this raised bed box. I've had to cut back almost every single original major branch that came out of this trunk or stem or whatever. And so now it's growing its own new branches. And I finally got the leaves to stay on. They're not dropping off anymore. They're not showing damage at the tips. Look at this, a full-sized avocado leaf. To full term. Full term leaves, folks. So yeah, my house avocado tree has finally made it out of its shock status. And here is my Manila Mango, which I topped, and we've got 3 new branches growing at the top. Mango Manila, this one didn't have to be mounded. These grow well in the native soil here in Southern California. It doesn't have pH issues, doesn't have salt issues, so I just shoved it right in the ground. Here's the persimmon tree, putting out new leaves. Had a ton of persimmons last year. I had to thin a bunch of blooms on this thing. It was in an alternate bearing cycle issue where the previous year it had like 6 fruits on it. This year I harvested maybe 50 to 60 off of this tree after thinning a ton of blooms on it. So hopefully by thinning the blooms, it won't go into its alternate bearing cycle, and we'll only get, limited number of blooms and maybe 6 fruit again. Hopefully it'll have enough energy to put forth enough flowers to have a decent harvest. Here is the sucker that I'm going to let grow into another tree, because this one is 20 plus years old. It's starting to lean. Why not have a second tree just in case this one fails? And here's the guava tree. It's still got fruit on it. This is what I use to make my morning juice. I'll take some fresh guava, blend it, mix it in with some orange juice, throw in a banana, and then I'll juice up a bunch of leaves from those tree collards over there. I'll take the tree collards, I'll take the kale that I'm growing. It's a mess over there. I haven't done a video or a close-up on my raised bed garden because I want to do a bunch of stuff to it. So just showing you that's where I grow all my collards and kale and a Swiss chard, stuff that I throw in my juicer. Look at my dragon fruit cactus. Look at how it's grown and put off new shoots or new branches. This is the one grown in the pot that's getting nutrients. I'm gonna have to get rid of that bag. This one's growing healthy and strong. Look at the coloring. Look at all the new growth coming off of it. And look at the ones that I threw in the ground of a different variety. They're kind of yellowish. They've got spots on them. They haven't really grown much. They could be just basically planted in the ground and effectively dying. I don't even know if they're even really taking foot. 3-in-1 pear tree hasn't broken dormancy yet. And the Jujube tree, which is just starting to break dormancy. Look at that little bit of greenery showing at the tips. And what else? Oh yeah, you'll find out more about these little spots as I make videos on them, but I'll show them to you now. And you can kind of guess what I got going on here based on the other videos I've done. Got a couple more of those grow zones going on. And my Pluot tree. has gone into flower. This is the second year in the ground. This was supposed to be its pollinator. The nursery said, oh yeah, pick up a beauty plum as its pollinator. But they seem to be blooming at the wrong times. So this is definitely not going to be pollinating this one. So that's why I picked up this Dapple Dandy. This is the first year in the ground. I'm letting the blooms open up just so it gets some kind of pollination. The bees don't seem to like it though. They love this plant over here. The bees just swarm all over these little purple flowers, but I can't get any of them attracted to this one. Every once in a while, you'll see a rogue bee come by and check this one out. So what I've been doing is I've been plucking a couple flowers from time to time off of this and just basically, you know, nuzzling them up to flowers over here, hoping I can hand pollinate a couple so I can have at least a couple pluots this season. And so, yeah, but next year, definitely I'll have a bunch of pluots and maybe some of these Dapple Dandy ones too. I'm eventually going to marcotte this thing. I'm going to air layer it. That's why I took off. I stripped off all the branching here, even though it's growing more. But I'm going to basically air layer this sucker, take the top off, grow the top in a container, have the bottom one out here to pollinate this one. So that's pretty much it. I've pretty much covered everything out here. I don't want to show, I'll show you the Loquat tree another time. It is fruiting right now. The fruit's starting to turn yellow. So we'll have fresh loquats in a matter of weeks. Anyways, this is Zen. This has been my spring update. We'll end this on my beautiful avocado tree, which is going to survive. Take care, everybody. Have a happy coronavirus spring. Everybody stay safe, stay in, relax, enjoy your plants. And if you don't have any plants, come hang out with me and enjoy mine. Take care.